Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for October 13th, 2016. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. What we've seen here is basically price sell-off here recently, failing to hold above 58.5 and then auctioning back toward 35 to 40, as was our first target. Price dropped eventually into 21.75 and eventually bounced back a little bit from there. But once it pushed down here in overnight after hours trading here, we've seen price push down as low as 13.5 here, which is near the lows that we saw mid September, and that's something we haven't seen in a while. We've been tightly coiled in this pattern for some time, but I mentioned before, at some point we're going to move to one of the edges of this range, and once we do, we may take out the highs or lows, and then we'll likely snap right back toward where we were. So right now we're making a move to the edge of the range, or at least to the lower part of this range. We'll see what happens from here. But I think right here, this 21.20 is going to be very important. 21.22, very, very important, and that's going to be the key level to watch early. So if we take a look at the intraday time frame here, here's 21.21.75. Basically 21.22. That 75 was the low from a couple of sessions ago. 22 is a weekly PivotBoss pivot extension, and so you have price holding right below that zone right now. You can see the LVN forming here. You can see how price is just defending here. One thing that I noticed that's very important is right here we have a failed lower low, and then prices rallied back up. So that tells me that this 21.22 is very important. We may continue to see this thing build out a little bit here, but if the stops come out above 21.22, I think it could be a very quick move right back to 5-day VPOC at 21.3475. So watch 21.22 very, very closely here. If price starts to push up through that zone, or we start to see a strength through it, a retest could be a fantastic buying opportunity. So right now, that's the early level to watch. Failure to get back above 21.22 would suggest more weakness here into 21.08. All right, let's take a look at crude oil. Here's crude. We have a higher time frame here with the weekly PivotBoss pivots. There we are. I talked about before how 50.5 has been very, very important. 50.5 has been a rejection point. We got beyond it at this point, but failed. We came to it twice, failed. And now we came over here and tried to hold, and we failed. And this is something we talked about here recently, where I mentioned that this was the digestion day right here. This is a day where the stops were run through resistance, so they're trying to hold it here, right on the mid. And I said if they go offered through that level, it could be quite bearish here. We could see bears come in and defend that zone on a retest, and we could be looking at a quick move back toward composite VPOC, which is 46.69. So right now, we could see much more weakness ahead. It all depends on 50.5. So I'm calling 50.5 the key level here. If price cannot get back above 50.5, we've had a series of lower highs and lower lows day over day. That implies more weakness. I would say any attempt into 50.20 to 50.5 up there is likely to be defended big time for a shot at seeing more weakness here. If the bears can push price through this previous week's close here, the next likely downside target will be the previous week's low and the key level here, which would be about 47.90, somewhere in that zone, with a continuation back toward value. So that's going to be very important. Watch 50.5. If price pushes above 50.5, then we may stay in the trading range and continue to build out. But if there's any failure to hold above 50.5, could be significant. All right, so let's take a look at this on an intraday time frame. Dropping down into the 512 tick chart, you can see here's crude oil. Here's the 50.5 we were just talking about. Very important. You can see it was support, 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 and then it went offered right here and sold off. It formed a range down here, and then what we saw here so far is here's the previous week's low, previous session's low. You see price drop below the previous session's low, and then start to work its way back up. Take the previous close bid, defend on the close. So we're starting to work our way back up. And right now we see that VWAP is trending up. We have a series of higher highs and higher lows. So this current pullback right here into 50 could be a short-term buying opportunity into 50.5. Up here is where they've been defending, so I would say if 50.5 is tested, watch for signs of rejection. If there's any signs of rejection, you could be looking at a move from 50 to new lows at the very least as this thing builds out, perhaps an expanding range. All right, let's take a look at gold futures. We've been talking about the absorption signature that's been building out in gold. And, yesterday I mentioned that it looked like it was weakening, but it's still the primary idea. And that really hasn't changed today. You can see here's the 52s. I mentioned, you want to be holding that zone right there into that area. And that's where bulls are defending right now, looking to keep these prices rejected. And they're looking to absorb any sellers that are coming in right here for a shot at squeezing this thing back up. So that's what's happening right now, and the absorption signature is building out. The only thing is we haven't really seen this thing start to pop yet. We haven't really seen much enthusiastic buying pressure, especially above the previous week's close. Nothing but selling pressure above it. That's why I mentioned that you have to be very careful here. I'm calling 1250 now. If price fails to hold 1250, we could be looking at another round of weakness to new lows. As the absorption signature would have failed at that point. So 1250 is going to be the level to watch. I still think that every time price gets in the 52s, you're going to see bulls come in and defend. But if we start to break through 50, it could be done. So right now, bulls really need to get prices back above 1268. Right now, we're just kind of stuck in the range. All right, let's take a look here at the NQ. There we are. So here's the NQ, kind of zooming out a little bit. You can just see what the pattern we've kind of defined here over the last 2 years. You can see right across these highs is about where we've been. These lows, they're different. I mean, they can be like this or they can be like that. It can be an upward channel here. But right now, we're at this upper portion of this range, and we're sitting at highs. We're sitting or attempting to sit right here above the top of this key zone right here, this key level. So we're sitting up here as well. But if there's any failure to hold above that area, the implication would be a move back across the range at some point. But it doesn't even have to come all the way back. We know that any pullback has been a buying opportunity, no matter how significant or how insignificant. This 2-day pullback was quickly bought to new highs. Right now we're embarking on a 3-day pullback, and we're trying to figure out, is there going to be more, or is this about it? What's going to happen here? And really, we've just kind of started to break down today below 4,800. So 4,800s has been bid this entire time, and just today now, we're taking MCVPOC right here, offered. That's 4806 half. We're taking it offered right there, and we're dropping through it. That means we're taking value offered right now. If we're taking value offered at these higher prices, that means we're going to seek a retest of lower value. And right now we have short-term lower value here at 47.58. Then we have big-time lower value at 45.20. So we could be looking at more of a pullback here, especially given this fact. So price really needs to get back above 48.20, 4,800 especially, just to start getting some traction. Otherwise, we could be in a price discovery phase to the downside with targets at 47.30, 46.80, and 46.25 on the shallow end. Now let's take a look at the intraday time frame. Here's the intraday time frame. One thing I will watch here, again, 47.90 is going to be very important as an intraday level, very similar to the ES. Price can build out down here, but we've seen a pattern of lower lows that have been rejected and defended. So I would say a squeeze above 47.90 opens the door back to a move to 48.20. So be watching for that. If there's any failure to hold above 47.90 when it tests, that could easily mention or imply a move back to new lows, likely into the next area down. Remember, the next VPOC below, if this one's going offered, then it's going to be 47.58 as the next one to test. So keep that in mind. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.